Well, hey, transporter, how are you doing? That good, huh? So, what's on your mind? Yep, it's about that time, all right. Time to go back to school. You only have 11 more years? Well, I'm out of school. I've been out of school for a long time. Yeah, in a way, I guess I do kind of miss it. What was the best part about going to school? Well, I don't know what the best part was. Probably hanging out with my friends, but something I do love and I miss was going back to school. That's right, going back to school where I got to pick out the new school supplies for the year. So let's talk about school supplies back in the 80s. Welcome back to the junk room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video. Today's kind of just a laid back rambling video here because we're just going to talk about going back to school. School supplies. Now, technically, it doesn't have to be stuff that you got when you went back to school, but every year around August, right before September, we would go back to school, and it was an exciting time. I'll be kind of bummed out because summer was over and I had to go back to school.
I'll tell you what then, why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
I was never a big fan of school, but then again, who was? People used to tell me all the time, you'll miss it when you grow up and you're older and you don't have school anymore. And I was like, you're crazy. No one hates school more than I do. And I kind of miss it now. But like I said, going back to school was exciting because you had to have all this new stuff. And there was a loophole for the school supplies you could buy. Now, a lot of times you couldn't bring your Star Wars toys to school. I don't know why either. It's the dumbest rule ever. I mean, who wouldn't be able to do more work if you had a Han Solo and Hulk sitting on your desk with you, watching you do your work? I know I would have done a lot better at school. I probably went to some kind of fancy college if I was able to take a Han Solo to school with me. But I wasn't. So I used going back to school supplies as a way to show my inner love. TV shows, movies, music, whatever it was, here's a way I could express what I liked without bringing a toy to school or something, or a shirt. We wasn't even allowed to wear shirts until I got to high school. I don't think they had slogans on it. I couldn't even wear a Star Wars shirt to school unless it was special wacky shirt day or something. So we're going to look at 10 school supplies that I remember getting going back to school. Now, when I was making this list, some other things hit me that was from school that I forgot all about. I just wanted to see if you guys remembered any of these. One was going into the school library and getting the book. In the back, it had a card where you had to fill out when you rented the book. Is that what you call it? When you got the book, and you could look at this card and see every year of who else checked this book out. And although I never really knew these other people, it was always great to see because there I was in 1982 looking at this card back. Hey, look who else checked this book out. Just think about it. Some guy named Jerry Van Dyke checked out the same book the year Star Wars came out. So it was always a lot of fun. I know we didn't have the internet back then and video games wasn't that good. This was my kind of fun. But I was wondering if anyone else liked doing that. Look at that card in the back of the library books at your school to see who else checked them out. But that's enough of that. I don't know why I wanted to bring that up. But let's talk about the 10 school supplies. Let's start with one that any kid in the 80s had to have going to school, or you were square. You were a loser if you didn't have a Trapper John Keeper. I love the Trapper John Keeper. I mean, you could put all kinds of papers in there, lock it up, carry it around, throw it around, sling it, whatever. Your Trapper John MD Keeper would never slip up, open, and your papers would fall out. I mean, you would write love letters to Amy Covey that you would never give her, but you put them inside your Trapper John Keeper, and guess what? No one would ever see it because it wouldn't just fall out and land in the middle of the school floor where somebody would pick it up and read it. I loved it. Now, what I didn't like about my Trapper John Keeper is they were generic. They didn't have movie themes or TV themes. I wish they did. I would have loved a Trapper John Keeper with Star Wars on it. And I remember when going back to school, we would go to Kmart and look at these, and there was one I always wanted, but I never could get. Thanks to the miracle of Photoshop, I made the Trapper John Keeper I always wanted, but I never got. Man, if I could have took that to school in 1982, I would have been the coolest kid at school. No question about it. So what is something else you had to get when you went back to school that kind of expressed who you were? Well, one easy way to do that while getting in trouble and bringing toys to school was erasers. Yes, they almost look like toys. They almost look like action figures that didn't do anything. I call them non-action figures. Erasers. And they were so cool that you didn't want to erase with them. I remember having all kinds of erasers. Pac-Man, to have Pac-Man and his ghost. I remember a Mr. T eraser that I really loved. But of course, I really loved my Star Wars erasers, and I would never touch them. I would just put them on my desk or lay them down next to my desk. And I remember having Gamorrean Guard. I remember having a Royal Guard. All the erasers I remember for some reason were from Return of the Jedi. I'm sure I had erasers before that, but this is the only ones I remember. But I never wanted to erase with them. I mean, erase one time. You take your Biff or Tuna eraser, erase it one time, and half of his head is slid off. So you don't want to ruin your eraser. I also remember having some He-Man erasers. He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, had an Orko eraser and some others. Now number 8 is one, I couldn't find anything on Google about it. So I think it was just my school. So I'm going to put 2 things as number 8. But this was desk bags. Desk bags. Now I remember this between first grade. Well, first and second grade I went to a school, public school. Then I went to a private school. Went back in the 6th grade to the same public school. And they again have desk bags. This was a bag you tied on the side of your desk, and everyone had the same one. It was a cloth army green bag, but it had kinds of pockets on it, and you could take a marker and draw all on it. I remember putting symbols and everything. I mean, I wasn't like most kids. I wasn't drawing Van Halen symbols and stuff. I was kind of a dorky kid. I was writing Star Wars or Bocephus on it, and people was like, "What are you talking about? What is Bocephus?" But okay, I was a little different, especially when it came to music. But I remember these desk bags, and I looked around on Google, and I could find nothing that looked anything like these desk bags that I had. So I'm not going to make number 8 desk bags, because I guess it was just something my school did. So we're going to talk about backpacks, or things to carry your books in. That was always a good way to express yourself. A lot of times these wasn't movie themed or TV themed, so you just had to express yourself on something that looked cool. And I remember this one growing up in the 70s. Now I couldn't find a picture of the one I had, but I found one very close to it that's a different color. Check it out. This is it. I can't believe I carried this thing to school. I can remember being kindergarten, maybe first, second grade, carrying this ugly, stupid briefcase. But it was the 70s. I guess I thought I was Mike Brady or something, carrying my work around. I can still remember that. I can still remember playing with that latch to keep the lid closed on it. I can't believe I walked around with that thing. Now, oddly enough, I don't remember much of my book bags. Now, in high school, I had the standard backpack like every other cool kid. But I don't remember any really backpacks I had other than that stupid briefcase one. I do remember sometime around 5th or 6th grade, my friend Boyd had a California Raisins backpack. Hated that backpack. Just the sight of it wanted me I'm not going to say anything. He was my friend. So what are we up to? Number 7. And this was another good way to express your inner geek or whatever. If you were into sports, I guess that's the way you could do also. I mean, I didn't know anything other than sports, that maybe Dale Murphy played for the Falcons. That's about all I could tell you. Pencil boxes. Now, there's 2 different kinds. The pencil box, the square one, the cool one that kids had, a hard piece of plastic. I remember I had a Star Wars pencil box. You open it up, and I think I remember having a He-Man one. I'm not really sure about that one. Open up, put your pencils, and you could sneak some action figures and take them to school and some other things into your pencil box. Teachers never looked in your pencil box, so you could always sneak stuff into your pencil box. Now, there was another thing besides the pencil box. It was more like a pencil bag. This was a little flimsy nylon bag or something you zipped up. I can remember a He-Man one of that one that a friend of mine named Justin had, and there was other ones from TV shows and movies also. Now, to be extra cool, you had to have the one with the pocket on the bag. That way you could put your lunch money in that pocket. But I didn't need that because I had kangaroo shoes that had a pocket on the side of them to put my change and my house key in because I was a latchy kid. What we up to now? Number 6. Now, this was more about middle school and high school, but at least middle school, I had to go back every year with a brand new watch. Now, before middle school, I would do this also, but it would mostly be character watches. I remember I had a Star Wars watch. And I remember I had a Pac-Man video game watch that I loved. And then I got into calculator watches. Had to have a calculator because I thought I could cheat in class. But I never really remember ever using it in class like I thought I would. I thought, if I get that calculator, my mom and dad's going to be so proud of me because my math grade is going to get up to a C. But I don't ever remember using that. I was probably doing this in class. Amy Cody. But in middle school, I got into these other kind of watches that always had a bunch of gadgets on it. All kinds of timers, stopwatch, timers. Anything that had a number related to it, I had to have it. And the more information you could put on a watch screen, the better. Now, I remember a lot of my friends around this same time, probably in the mid to starting to be late 80s, they all had to have a swatch. I never got into a swatch, but they did look pretty cool. But I wasn't hip enough to wear a swatch watch, sadly. Number 5, and probably the best way for us to show our love for something was notebooks and folders. You could buy anything almost with a picture on a notebook or a folder. I had a lot of Star Wars folders. From Boba Fett, from the first movie, this Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, you name it. If it was a folder or a notebook, I had it. I remember a Dukes of Hazzard notebook, Dukes of Hazzard notebook, He-Man. I think I had every kind of notebook they made until I got to middle school, and then someone released these notebooks or folders that were just big asses. It was like you could have boys or girls, and it would be like a girl in tight ash wash jeans. And I was like, hey man, I can sneak this to school. I mean, I was like 13 or 14. It was like softcore porn to me or something. So it was really great. I could sneak this to school and be like, hey, look at this. Oh, look, an ass. I have to look on Google to see if I can find those. But I don't know why they thought it would be good to sell to kids folders and notebooks with asses on it, but they did. Number 4 is, of course, pens or pencils. Now, we weren't allowed to bring pens to school, really. But I remember getting excited when I got my first eraser mate. Do they still make those? A pen that could erase like a pencil? It was the greatest creation ever. But there's one kind of pen that always reminds me of the 80s, but I think you can still buy it today, and it hasn't changed. It still looks the same. Now, there's some knockoff ones that probably look different, but remember the multicolor pen that would have the clicky tops at the top? You want to write in red? Click it down. You want to write in blue? Click it down. And I would always try to click both at the same time just to see what happened. Maybe I could write both. If you click blue and red together at the same time, maybe you can write red and blue and then put on your 3D glasses and make 3D pictures. Never would have worked for me, but I would always try it or take it out. Or I remember my friend Nick would have one of these, and when he wasn't looking, I would unscrew it and take one of the colors out, throw it away, zoom it, put it all back together again, and wait for him to pick up his clicky pen and wonder why green doesn't come down. What's wrong with my green? And I would just laugh to myself. Oh, the multicolor pen. I'm sure you all remember it. Any kid still has it today, I'm sure. They still make it, still looks the same. Then there were the pencils. Now, I remember rubber jacks. I don't know what you called them, but they were a number 2 pencil, but they slightly bend just a little bit. Not too much now. They would crack and break, but they were very great for popping pencils. Again, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a smartphone and everything, so to pass time, we would get paper, make footballs out of them. Boom! That's the only kind of sports I ever played in school. Paper football. You like that and try to kick the field goal. What was I talking about? Oh, the pencils. But there was this one little pencil. You take the pencil out when it gets dull, and put it in the top, and it'll push another point down. Hated these things because you would always lose one. And once you lost one, there was nothing to push down the next one. So every time you wrote, it would go back up into the pencil. So you would stick paper down in there and try. It never failed. I would always lose one of the pulley out pencil things. I hope I explained that right. I hope you know what I'm talking about. And now number 3, I have to bring this up because I never used it. I don't know anyone that ever used it, but every year you had to get a new. This is a little thing I don't know why we carried this to school. I don't know how we got away with bringing this to school, but it was, you put a pencil in it. It was a piece of metal. You put a pencil in it, and it had this big needle. It was about this long on it that you could jab into someone's eye any second. But you put it on your paper and you spin it around. You make great circles, but I don't never ever remember having to use this thing in school. But every year it was on the list. It's like, why do I need this? Why don't I bring a Tsquare? Something else I'll never use. But every year had to get a new one. Now basically these didn't come in any themes or anything. They were just usually metal with a big needle on it. But you could get other supplies like a Star Wars scissor that you couldn't really cut anything with. They were just aggravating you. What else? Number 2, and this isn't really school supplies, but to enjoy your day at school, you had to bring snacks. So let's talk about some great snacks we had back then. I can remember every once in a while, if it was a lucky time of year, I could have a PB Max with my bologna sandwich. PB Max, great candy right there. But the thing that really missed the most of all was I think Ritz made them, but other people probably did also. It would just be a crackers and cheese. You take a cracker and you would take this red slab of plastic and dip it in the cheese and smear it on your cracker. And you could just smear it all over it. And you try not to put too much on a cracker. That way you could eat the cheese. You wanted some cheese on your cracker, but when you got done, you wanted to scoop out all the cheese you could. And coulis. At lunchtime, I had to make sure I had change so I could buy coulis. Again, this is something I'm not sure if everyone had coulis, but man, we had coulis. And if you had enough money for dessert and you bought a Mickey Mouse ice cream, didn't you hate it when someone say, "Hey, let me have one of those ears"? Like, no, he's only got 2 ears, and that's the best part of the Mickey Mouse ice cream. I'm not sharing my ears with anyone, but it never failed. You would save up your money all week so you could buy a Mickey Mouse ice cream on Friday. And Lamar or somebody would say, "Get me one of those ears." No, you're not getting my ears. And again, I'm not sure if anyone even knows what I'm talking about. Now, number one, I did a whole video on. And sadly, I looked today and it didn't even get that many views, like 700. But it's a video of me going through each lunchbox I had as a kid. Lunchboxes were the thing. I'm going to have to re-upload that video and see if I can get more views as a classic upload. But lunchboxes, come on. There was no better way to express yourself than your lunchbox. I had Dukes of Hazzard. I had Pac-Man. I had all Star Wars. I had Temple of Doom. They didn't make a Raiders one. If they did, I would have had it. I remember even having my brother's hand-me-down $6 million man lunchbox. Lunchboxes were the way to go. That's how you express yourself the most, a lunchbox. That's why it's number one. If you haven't seen my video about all my lunchboxes I had, I think I'm going to upload it again. I also did a video about Star Wars lunchboxes if you want to check all of them out. But anyway, I just kind of want to talk about school supplies. Not really sure why. Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure there's some stuff that I forgot about that you can remind me that I used to buy going back to school. Or tell me about some school supplies that you loved when you were going back to school. Or maybe some school supplies you wish you did have. Or if you had a desk bag, let me know. Was it only my school? Oh, that seems about it. As always, please subscribe to the channel, thumb up so I know you like my content, and we'll be back again very soon.
Junkman.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.